Nicole. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first of 3 public meetings for the new Kenton County Park. I'm Scott Gunning, the Assistant County Administrator, and on behalf of Judge Chris Knockelman, I would like to thank you for attending tonight and sharing your input on the amenities that you'd like to see on this great property. We have a unique opportunity sitting here tonight. It's not every day that you get 225 acres of undeveloped land in Kenton County to transform into a park. I can tell you we're very excited about this project, and the judge has made it very clear that we want to make sure that we explore every possible option for this property while still recognizing that we have to balance the county's financial resources. Your feedback tonight and throughout this process will help us build a master plan for the park and a roadmap for years to come. Now, before I turn it over to Human Nature, let me take a few seconds and give you a very quick abbreviated history of how we got to where we are today with this property. So back in 2020, based on numerous recommendations from professionals in the golf industry, the Fox Run course was closed to try to make the remaining 2 18-hole golf courses, the Pioneer and the Willows, financially sustainable. Now in August of 2020, after looking at all the options for the property, the Fiscal Court approved the transition of the Fox Run golf course into a park. We went ahead and we removed the fence and we opened it up for passive recreation to include hiking, biking, and fishing, and hopefully you guys are using that property as we speak. But as soon as we opened it up, we saw a high utilization rate and recognized that our first step was to put together a master plan and to start seeking input from the public on what amenities you want to see happen out there. This is your park, and it's your opportunity to expand park and recreation services in Kenton County and to create something special and unique for our residents for years to come. So moving forward, the county went through the competitive bidding process and we hired Human Nature, led by Gary Wolenzak, to start creating that master plan for us, which is basically where we're at tonight with our first public meeting, seeking your input. Now, before I go ahead and turn it over to Gary, I do want to let everybody know that tonight's meeting is being recorded for people that could not attend. So the video, along with the polling questions, will be posted on our website starting tomorrow until around April 30th for feedback. So with that, Gary, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, who's the president of Human Nature, to go ahead and kick us off and get us started.
Great. Thanks, Scott. I want to make a few introductions of my team. You see if your screen looks like mine. We have Nicole DeNovo. Nicole, give us a wave. She's under the Human Nature name there, carrying the flagship. And then David Whitaker. He's our head designer at Human Nature. See David. And we're all going to tag team tonight. So you might hear one of them speak up, but you know, don't be surprised who's talking at any given time. Probably many of you have been on virtual meetings. This is Zoom. It's the one that we feel is very open and easy to use. Nicole's going to go through just a few kind of housekeeping things about how to engage tonight, but we're going to do that in a lot of different ways. I think we felt like, you know, with limitations of public meetings, we found like the virtual meetings, online meetings, Zoom meetings really is an opportunity to get more engagement. So that's been our experience. We want your input. We're gonna have some online polling as we go through this presentation. You're welcome to type into a chat that Nicole will go over. You're welcome to raise your hand and to speak. And then there's going to be a follow-up survey on the county website. So there's a lot of ways that we want your input and whatever you feel most comfortable with. So Nicole, do you want to go through our meeting protocols?
Yeah, just real quick, the kind of the overview for the meeting. If you want to ask a question, you're welcome to ask a question anytime throughout the meeting. We ask you to either raise your hand or preferably use your chat box, and that's in the bottom bar of your screen, of your Zoom screen. Again, when we have open discussion towards the end, we'll again ask you to raise your hand and unmute you so you can ask your question or place your comment. If you are using a phone, don't put the call on hold, but you can to mute and unmute yourself. And then, as Gary mentioned, throughout the presentation, we're going to have some interactive polls, and I will launch those as the slides progress, and we'll give everybody a moment to respond to those polls, and then we'll be able to give you live results of people's preferences and input on there. And then, as Scott had mentioned, we're recording this tonight, and it will be available on the county's website for you to provide additional online input for the next couple of weeks until April 30th. So with that, I'll give it back to Gary.
Thanks, Nicole. So Scott gave you a little preview of how we got to where we are now. And what I'm going to go through is our design process and where we are in that. We break down our design process in 3 distinct phases: awareness, exploration, and vision. We're in awareness now. We started towards the end of February, really gathering information about the site, getting familiar with the site, doing site inventory and analysis. And we're going to share some of that with you this evening. We'll take input both from this meeting and from online comments to the end of April. And in exploration, we'll look at alternatives. We've got somewhat of a list of program elements, things that could happen on this site. We're going to give you an opportunity to weigh in on those and to add to those if necessary. And we'll take those and we'll look at exploration in the exploration phase. So, and it won't be, here's the plan that includes everything that you said. It's going to be probably, the site will be broken into different areas because it naturally lends itself to that. And there'll be 2 or 3 kind of complete plans at a sketch level that we can share to see how things fit together, the scale of things, and we would come back at another meeting. We hope you join us then in about 2 months, which would be the exploration meeting, and hope that you see your comments and see your influence in the plan. And then we'll weigh in on that plan and see, it won't be picking one, but it'll say, I like this better than this. And we'll take all of those positive, supportive feedback and come up with a final plan, which will still be a preliminary master plan. We call that the vision. And in the vision, we'll move out of plan. We'll certainly have a plan view, but we will get more into visuals of what it will look like if you are on the site. So those are our 3 steps. We're just starting in awareness, even though we've been working a month or so gathering information. It's a great time for you to get involved. We hope that you join us in each one of these phases. So the specific dates will be posted. We're going to ask if you want to be directly contacted towards the end. Nicole's going to ask for your email so that we can directly contact you when the next meeting schedule and other things. So that's our process. So like any good project or process, it's good to have goals and objectives to guide us as we move through this process so we don't lose focus. And I'm just going to go through these because I think each one is important. Certainly to create a vision for a new Kenton County Park and Lincoln Ridge Park. So Lincoln Ridge Park is an established park just down the street, and we're going to not totally redesign that, but we're going to incorporate that into design because we see this, the county sees this as morphing into one park. One that connects the new park, the Lincoln Ridge Park, into nearby neighborhoods. So we want to connect as many people as we can, pedestrians, so that you're not always relying on the car to get there. How can we get people to walk there? And one that transforms the existing landscape into a lower maintenance, sustainable, ecologically rich, native landscape that supports the diversity of plant material and animal species. One that creates a place for passive recreation opportunities such as hiking, fishing, bird watching, environmental education, walking, and some active recreation like mountain biking and multi-purpose fields. One that enhances and defines the border between the park property and the adjacent golf course. So we'll show you the plans and show you how there's 2 golf courses to the north of this. They're going to stay operating, and it's kind of apparent when you go out there now what's green and what's manicured and what's not. But those golf courses are going to continue to operate in the future. And we just need to make sure we don't have conflict. So there'll be some screening. There's probably not going to be a big fence in between the two. One that celebrates unique character of the area, the region as a whole, the county, and this area. One that engages stakeholders for input and strategic partnership opportunities. One that establishes the park as a county and regional destination. So it's really great that people are using it now, but what would really make this special? What would make this a destination that people from around the county and the region would say, I've got to go see that, and I want to go back to see that. One that preserves and enhances the natural resources of the site. And this master plan process will generate a roadmap for phased implementation and funding partner opportunities. So this is going to be a longer term implementation. The county doesn't have a big chunk of money that they're saying we're going to put all this money into this park, and day one we're going to start construction and complete it in a year. So it's going to be done in phases over time as funding and partnerships help make that possible.
We're going to launch our first poll, and it's an easy one just to get everybody used to. So I'll give you a couple seconds to answer this.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And, you know, if you haven't been out there, we encourage you to go out there. So as we talk specifics about the park, you'll have some firsthand experience.
All right, we got it pretty good.
Great. That's great.
So a lot of you have been there, and that's good.
All right. So you'll be familiar with what we're talking about. Great. All right. So the site inventory analysis. So this is what we've learned about the site in the context so far. So this will inform our design alternatives. So just for context, Turkey Foot Road is on the far left of the screen. Nicole, if you wouldn't mind just highlighting some of those. There you go. That's Turkey Foot Road. Everybody's familiar with that, a big northwest corridor. And then Richardson Road is just to the north of this site, off of Turkey Foot, and that's the entrance to the golf course, off of Richardson Road. And then you'll see in the lower left, Independence Station Road. And that's the frontage for this. So those of you who have been there, I'm sure you've driven in that entrance right there. And a little further down the road is the entrance to Lincoln Ridge Park. And all of that is off of Independence Station Road. And then you'll see on the east side, on the far right of the screen, is Banklick Creek. It's probably the largest creek in Kenton County, one of the largest watersheds in Kenton County, which goes all the way north through Covington and into the Licking River. Okay. And the black outline is the 225 acres, the new Kenton County Park, and then Lincoln Ridge. And part of Lincoln Ridge is the County Public Works as part of that as well. So looking a little closer at the site, and you can see how the golf courses have been laid out. You can see the Banklick Creek, and you can see the waterways. I think we've got a hydrology map, but together this represents almost 300 acres between Lincoln Ridge and this site. If you've been there, you've seen the old restroom and concessions building from the golf course. The maintenance building that is at the end of that drive. If you pull in that drive past the lake a little bit, you'll see the maintenance building and then a radio tower. There's the Public Works complex with quite a few buildings and storage and parking areas. And then Gary Hall Drive, which is the main entrance to Lincoln Ridge. So, okay. And there's a number of factors that we're going to go through quickly. The slopes, and anything really over 20% is a challenge. It's a challenge to traverse. It's a challenge to hike. It's a challenge to keep soil from eroding. So you can see that some of these ravines are in that over 20%. And if you've been out there, you know what I'm talking about. The hydrology. So most of this, these streams that feed into Banklet Creek, they may be perennial. We're in the upper reaches of some of those streams. So everything that falls on this site and most of the golf course is coming through this site on its way to Banklet Creek. And we see that as actually an opportunity with the streams that we have on site. And the red area, if you back up one, Nicole, that red area around Banklet Creek would be the flood prone area, the flood area of Banklet Creek, which does not come up into this site at all. And the bigger, you can see the lakes. There's really only one lake that you see. The other on this site, the other lakes are on the golf course. Okay. Vegetated covers. This is forestry. So this is canopy cover. Some is better than others. And we've got another slide that shows that. But of course, most of the golf course was turf, is turf to some degree. They stopped maintaining it. So you can see how quickly it reverts away from a golf course look in the greens. And a little study there. But most of the ravines are forested. And actually, most of the streams are generally in pretty good shape. What impacts our streams a lot is when there's a lot of pavement in the watershed upstream from the streams. And since most of this is open land, is in golf course and this site, there's really not the big increase in runoff that degrades the streams. Now there's sections that are degraded here for other reasons. The construction of a golf course years and years, decades ago being one, but generally these streams are in pretty reasonable shape. So the Northern Kentucky Area Forestry Council does a county-wide forestry canopy study, and they can, through aerial photography, remote sensing, they can indicate the height of trees. So in some of these deeper ravines, the one more to the north, that darker color, are taller trees up to 100, 120 feet. And so the lighter colors are younger trees and shorter trees. Many of those in that light color are what would be called early succession. So prior to the golf course, we would imagine most of those areas were farmed, were cleared, and they were farmed or logged. And there's probably only a few areas of, I'm not even sure you would call it old growth, but large mature trees would be those darker areas. And the yellow areas, and really one of the problems not only here but in Northern Kentucky, is invasive species. In this next slide, this next slide points out, so this was last fall where you could start to see fall colors and this aerial photograph. And so there's two big problems with invasive species here, one being the ornamental pear tree, which is flowering about now or last week and probably finishing up this week. And that's kind of a newer culprit over the past 10 years. And then decades and decades ago, the Amur honeysuckle, the bush honeysuckle, which grows in and around the forest, the edge of the forest, anywhere it can get some light. So those are both challenges for any site management. We've got a lot of it here. Just some shots if you've been out there, you know, the stream valleys, ponds and lakes, the ridge tops, there really are some really great distant views. And when you hike back in there, you know, you really are quite removed from any development, any homes, So it's really a remarkable site that hopefully we will be enhancing that experience. Geology. There's not a lot to say about geology other than if you're familiar with Northern Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati, there's a formation called Cope in the geology that is subject to landslide. You know, all the work on Central Park or on the in Cincinnati going on right now is you know, they spend millions and millions of dollars on landslides. So we've got a little bit of Cope in the yellow, and we've got a little landslide. So that's not a picture of the landslide. That's a creek with some interesting bedrock patterns there. But we don't think the landslides is something that's being monitored, and we don't think that it's posing a problem for this park. We just wanted to. The good news is there's not a lot of that Cope formation on this site. Soils go along with the slopes, really. On top of the slopes, it's good farmland. It's deep, it's well drained, silt loam. You get on the sides, it goes to more clay because it's probably been eroded over time, and it's harder to keep that soil on these slopes. So that's kind of the lesson. We have to be careful what we do on some of these slopes, and that we do it well, so that we don't cause erosion problems. Some of the structures, I pointed out a few. The bridges, if you've been out there with the over 6 miles of golf cart paths, there were quite a few crossings of these creeks. Some of them are pretty substantial structures with concrete head walls and steel beams, even though they might have wood on top, they're pretty substantial underneath. And there's some smaller crossings that are not built quite that substantial, but those are the purple dots. I pointed out the maintenance and concession and those things previously. There's the existing cart paths, as you can see. They're servicing that golf course, as you would expect. And over on Lincoln Ridge, those are more unpaved paths through the woods. So we're going to link those two together, probably close to where that cursor is right now. It makes logical sense so that you don't have to get back out into your car and drive over to the main body of the park. So integrating those two parks is very important to the county. And we'll have to see where the cart paths lead us. You know, we'll certainly keep them where we can, where they make sense, but there'll likely be another whole path system that will develop. Utilities, there's not a lot of utilities in here. The yellow line coming up from the Banklit Creek is a SD1 sewer main, so it goes up to the maintenance building. It goes up to Public Works, as you might expect, as they have quite a large offices there, and into Lincoln Ridge. And the yellow dots are just from our observation that there's actually you know, power drops in those areas, believe underground, where there's transformers in those locations. So the context, I pointed out the major roads before. This is a little bit bigger view where you start to see Doe Run Lake to the north, and to the far southeast, some of you elementary may know that. Some of these purple areas are Kenton Conservancy properties. So Brushy Fork is a new property that is just to the east. To the south is Woolsing, and those are trails, existing unpaved trails in Woolsing, and that is adjacent to and just downslope of Meadow Glen subdivision. In Meadow Glen subdivision, the entrance to that is off of Independence Station Road, and almost right across the street, very close to this property. So that's going to be an important link. And to the north, you see Flagship Park and Erlanger Park, Sherborne Park, and all of those, there's existing paved trails, which are in purple, and the lighter trails are some paved, unpaved, but they're connecting to the Doe Run trail system. So the concentric lines are a quarter mile, half mile, 1 mile, and those are like 5, 10, 20-minute walks. So our goal would be to connect as much of the population in this area reasonably by foot.
We're gonna launch our next poll. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you've observed while you've been on site? And you can answer any of these things that we may have already talked about or did not. And
you're welcome to, certainly respond to this, but if you want to chat or make a comment, it's welcome as well.
Okay, I'll give you another second to answer and then we'll end this. And for those of you that did respond, if you would like to unmute yourself or raise your hand, we're happy to hear what things, what wildlife or history that you would like us to keep in mind. Anybody?
Well, I know in wildlife, and if you've walked that, the coyotes are active in a lot of northern Kentucky. I think they're very active out there. You can see their scat on the paths, which is one of their techniques to mark territory. I was out there last week in the afternoon, and you could see we saw one crossing the path. So, yeah, coyotes and hawks are pretty prevalent there.
One person messaged in that they occasionally see deer.
Yeah.
Another person has said that they're a little concerned with emergency response if needed. They visited the site for the first time on bike.
Okay. Great. Anything else?
Kelly's very excited about having it accessible to pedestrians, and asked maybe a sidewalk connecting Fox Run to Turkey Foot.
We've got a slide. We can talk about that. So these are some of the site challenges, and it's good timing. You see the same thing, but pedestrian accessibility to the site. So, there's not sidewalks on most Richardson Road or Independence Station Road. So we've got some ideas on that. And within the site, so there's certainly accessibility around the site, but when you talk about, handicap or somebody with some impairments, that's something that we'll focus on in the plan to make sure that everyone is welcome and parts of the park. The buffer between the golf course and the park is going to be one of the challenges that we will address. And the lower creek tributary being unstable, assuming around that landslide, and then the invasive species. So is there anything else that?
We'll launch another poll here. Out of the challenges that we've identified, what's the most important to you to address in this master plan? And I know that one person has asked in the chat box, while this is a great presentation, the planning and implementation will take significant time. Is there an opportunity to connect to Meadow Glen now? So we can talk to Scott and the other the other folks at the county and see if they can't address that sooner.
Yeah. Okay.
We're getting a lot of people answering this poll question, so I'll just give everybody another second. And I'll end it and share the results. Seems like pedestrian access is a big one.
Yeah.
Followed by pedestrian access within the sites.
Good. Okay. It's all within our scope to address in this process. So let's talk about connections. So these are, it's at a high level. This is not necessarily saying this side of the road, that side of the road. Nothing is set in stone, but these are early observations for potential community connections. So off of Turkey Foot Road and Richardson Road, where that development has happened, there's some sidewalks that are started there. We've got a big label right over top of them. So, but those are existing sidewalks. And then I think there's only a couple properties that then the golf course, the county property starts on Richardson Road. So that might be, you know, an opportunity to continue that sidewalk along Richardson Road to get to this site. It would actually be on the golf course side at Richardson Road. So that's one option, to connect to Turkey Foot. And just looking at that compared to Independence Station Road, which the number of driveways, how close some of the driveways in the homes are to Independence Station Road. At this point, we feel, you know, maybe Richardson Road and extending that might be more doable. So that's the blue line. So that's a sidewalk. Now let's go down to Meadow Glen and the lower edge, and you can see the down arrow. That is the main drive to Meadow Glen, and there's sidewalks on the south side of, I think Meadow Glen put those in when they were developed, but they only go to the across that property, and then there's other parcels that do not have sidewalks. So it wouldn't take a whole lot of length of sidewalk on one side or the other to get a sidewalk connection to this property. And I know that's something early on that I think even before we were engaged that the county has been looking at. So I think that's going to be, you know, it's going to be looked at early on. And I don't have a timetable, but it just makes sense. It makes sense to make that connection through there on one side of the road or the other. And we'll just have to be cautious about it. It needs to be safe, and we have to look at where there's adequate right-of-way to do that, to do a sidewalk or a path. Now, we could also connect Lincoln Ridge because it is not connected to Meadow Glen. So I mentioned there could be an internal connection, but there could also be a connection along Independence Station Road to the entrance or to the first corner of Lincoln Ridge Park. So that's the other blue arrow. And then we've got connections within Lincoln Ridge, from Lincoln Ridge over to the new park across that stream. And then there is a seam where you say golf course clubhouse on the left there. There's a cart path, existing path there that now it's got a gate across it. And I believe that was when, if you checked in at the clubhouse and you were going to play Fox Run, that was the cart path to Fox Run. So I think in an early stakeholder meeting, there was some interest with even the operator of the golf course to say, what if people from the park came over to have lunch at the clubhouse? And so that's something that they're interested in looking at. And so we're looking at this cart path and saying, could we connect this park over to the clubhouse, which then gets us very close to Richardson Road. That Richardson Road entrance is very close to Turkey Foot. So that's kind of the thinking about some of those lines that go on the west edge. And it might look like it's through the golf course. It is, but it's a seam between the different courses. So it will have to be, how that's done. It needs to be safe. We're not sure about access control and things like that, but that would be an interesting connection to the golf course and to Richardson Road and potentially Turkey Foot.
Harry, there's a question that came up. Would the sidewalks that you're talking about include bike paths?
It's probably too early to determine that. I know there's some bike lanes on Turkey Foot, and there was one started on Richardson Road. I think we would look at that and see where the where we could put a wider path that might be multi-purpose, and then where it would go.
And then there was also a comment about providing shade to the trails and reforesting the site. That should be a priority.
Yep. Well, let me just describe two other features here that could be an opportunity. If you could go back one, Nicole, I want to go over there's a very large utility power line going through this site. And Nicole, if you could, just below Richardson Road, words there, parallel down there, and then coming up to the north corner of this site. That's a possibility for a path that is cleared. It's on the county property. It's cleared for this big power line. So there is some topography there, not that the line would be straight, but that could be a pathway connection that might be more conducive than trying to put a sidewalk or a path along Richardson Road, which is a challenge. But then you could get up to Richardson Road and for a short distance, parallel it and connect to Lakemont, which then connects to that existing trail, which connects to Doe Run. So these are some early ideas to address some of the community connections.
There's a comment or a question. There's an existing sidewalk that ends at the 700 block of Independence Station Road that would only have to be connected across maybe about 500 feet to join the southwestmost point of the golf cart path of Fox Run.
Yep. That's that blue. That's the blue line there, I believe. Southwest. Yep. South. No. Down. Meadow Glen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here.
I'm assuming it's that section right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Has there been any discussion about possibly making it more dog friendly, maybe even a small dog parks? That question probably we can address when we get later into the presentation when we talk about programs.
Yep.
And he said further west than that, linking the bottom left black corner of the boundary. So he said somewhere in here, there's a small connection that could happen.
Okay. Yeah, there's so there's a little subdivision off of Cody, I believe, or something that's got, yeah, we can look closer at that. Great. So inside, if you've hiked, and this is just a few of the key views, and we are interested in restoring some forest, but we probably want to look at some of these views and see what is, there's some of them. The one that is, 300 or 280 degrees is quite spectacular at that point, looking at the golf course, looking back onto the new park site. So, and as you come in, it's actually a pretty nice view down that valley and over the lake. So we'll take this into account as we start to plot trails and reforestation. These are some of the views that we saw in early spring. It looks nice and green now, but you know, they're even more spectacular now. So we don't want to lose some of this. We want to make sure that you know, you get an idea of the scale and the vista and in the final plans.
I'm going to launch another poll asking about these views. You know, we've identified a few views. So which of these are most important for you to that you would want to see preserved?
Okay.
There's another request for mountain biking trails. I won't read the whole comment, but I will.
Yeah, let's close the polls. I think we want to get into the program elements, because there you go. The Southern Ridge.
Southern Ridge of the lake and the valley seems to be the most popular.
Okay. Great. Okay. So when I talk about the structure or room, so this is generally what we would call like the ridge top, and it's reinforced with the valleys of the streams, and the majority of the forest is in the valleys. So these are areas of potential use areas. The county has no interest to, you know, bulldozing and filling valleys and doing something dramatic like that. But when you look at it, there is a lot of space to do things programmatically. And so there's these general 3 ridgetop use areas. And if you haven't hiked back to the second or the third, I encourage you to do that. So the purple line, and this will be one of the questions about how far to go into the site with a vehicle. And the box is where that parking lot is now. There's, you know, logically that the vehicular entrance will stay at that location. So how far do we bring back a vehicle? Which means if you wanted to have picnic shelters, that you're going to have a family picnic, and that you can get a vehicle there, that there could be handicap spaces back there, that there could be other events that people could drive to. So just an early question about that. Is that important to get a vehicular drive back to that point? Okay. Okay.
They're a little mixed.
Yeah. Yep. All right. We'll have mixed alternatives to discuss at the next meeting. There we go. All right. So just some early observations, taking all of this analysis into place and into account. You know, really focusing habitat restoration and protection on some of the valleys. The streams, there's many streams, the ones that have the dashed lines. They were piped for one reason or another when the golf course was built decades and decades ago. So one option would be to restore those streams to their natural feature and function, and where we would start to look at vegetated buffers. So this is kind of just an early thought on habitat restoration and protection. All right, next. So what activities and events could happen at the park? And we've started a list. I'm sure you have some ideas in your mind. We're going to go through each one of these. And we've categorized them active or passive recreation, trails, cultural restoration, ecological restoration. This is like Jeopardy topics here. So let's start with active passive recreation. So the things that And I just want to count. So this is a wish list. So anything can go on here. Everything that goes on here is not going to be built. So things that will go on here, we're going to weigh, see, what is the most desirable, how does it fit together, how does it fit with the budget. So, but we want to flush out all the ideas, and that's what this list is for. So far, dog park, disc golf course, affordable event venue, restrooms, senior activities, playground equipment, and or nature play, multi-purpose field, family picnic shelters and bird watching, adventure or skate park. So I think we want to have a poll, and let's prioritize these. So what do you, out of those, and we're going to give you an opportunity to add to this list. So let's prioritize this current list that we have.
And make sure you scroll down because all of these options are available in that poll.
Yeah.
You can vote
for as many as you want, I believe.
Yes, you can. And I'm going to give a little bit more time on these to make sure everybody has a chance.
So we've got about 11, 12 minutes. We want to wrap up the meeting. Okay.
Okay.
How are we looking?
One more second.
Okay.
A lot of people want restrooms.
Yep. Yeah, that's a necessity.
There's also somebody in the chat that added a handicap accessible playground.
Okay. All right. Good. Let's go to the next. So under trails, multi-use trails, walking, running, and biking.
It's fucking getting really old. These guys, all of this golf course is,
Instead of shaving them, except if it's on the fence, just say, hey guys.
Okay, sorry. He unmuted him.
Mountain bike trails, horseback riding trails, pump track, which is kind of a challenge course, a concentrated area for bikes. It's called a pump track. And then cross-country trails, which that is running. That's like high school cross-country. So let's
I'm seeing
let's
a lot.
Let's prioritize these.
I'm seeing some comments come through a lot about mountain bike trails.
Okay.
And a few other wish list items. Senior center, fitness, indoor, outdoor pool, and child watch.
All right. Well, let's focus on trails and okay. Multi-use walking. Okay. All right. Good. That's helpful. Nicole, was there any? Okay. I think we're going to ask questions to fill in when we get through all of this. So, the cultural restoration. So there's been discussions about what about reconstruction of old barns, log houses, cabins, and antique farm equipment. A working farm for education. An example of a pioneer settlement for the county, like a recreation. Community gardens, turf demonstration plots, and a community apiary where people could tend their bees in a community apiary. So let's see how everybody prioritizes these. All right, we're clicking away.
Yep, they're clicking.
All right, keep clicking.
I think I also have a question for Scott if he's still on the line.
Yep, I'm here, Nicole.
Somebody asked, did I miss anything about the disc golf course? The fundraiser raised money for. Are you aware of that you could address?
Yeah, I'm aware that they did raise some money for disc golf course, and that's can be used, to develop the trails or also to repair the trails for Lincoln Ridge disc golf course. So I believe those funds, I think they're still holding on to those funds, but there was a fundraiser for disc golf out there. That's correct.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Do we have a result? Community gardens, okay, is top. A lot of beekeepers, okay, our interest there. Okay. Great. Great. Thank you. Ecological restoration. So nature education and interpretation, that could be as far as, a building that could focus on nature education or just interpretive signs about the site. Forest restoration, that could be, it was stages, maybe not a traditional arboretum, but what would this forest look like pre-settlement? So a lot of this forest in northern Kentucky was cut for lumber. So and the trees that grew back since then are not the same. Most of them are not the same. So what would a pre-settlement arboretum say? What would that look like, and could that be developed? Stream restoration, pollinator garden or meadow, and invasive species management. What's your priorities on ecological restoration? All right. The vote's in.
They're still coming in. Give them another second here.
All right.
Someone else would like to see outdoor amphitheater or events, concerts, etc.
Okay.
Okay, one more second for everybody.
Okay.
Pollinator gardens are popular.
Yeah. Forest, right?
Forest restoration.
Great. Great. Okay. Now, let's talk about what you would like to see added to the list. I think Nicole has mentioned a few chat comments about items. So what else? What else would go in any one of these categories that we haven't talked about? Because we're going to add it to the list. This is not, the be all end all list. So let's, So do we want to, you can chat it. Nicole, is there any chats that we've not addressed that talk about?
Mini golf.
Okay.
YMCA.
Okay.
Native plant restoration.
Okay.
A few benches along the trails would be nice. Yes.
Okay.
Year-round activities. Slopes would make a nice community sledding area. Camping.
Okay.
Indoor pool and water fountain park.
Okay.
Adult swings. Non-paved hiking trails through the woods. Disc golf pro shop. Farmers market.
Okay.
Water fountain features. Native plant tree restoration.
Okay. All right. Well, those have all been recorded, and those will go on the list, on these lists in their appropriate categories as we move forward. I see a lot of relationship between these comments that are pretty strong and kind of reinforce some of these early ideas, so that's good. Anything else? Does anybody have anything to say that they would like to speak?
Exercise fitness equipment.
Yeah. Okay.
And nature element and moderate hiking, not too easy.
Okay.
Somebody asked if Scott could comment on connecting to Meadow Glen, or if an email would be better.
Yeah, let's drill in on that offline if we could, because I know it warrants a discussion for sure, but let's make sure we can.
Okay.
Anybody want to speak? Take the floor. I do miss that in the public meetings. People raise their hand, stand up, and I got something to say. So you're welcome.
You're welcome to unmute yourself and make a comment. There's one comment that there seems to be she likes the general direction of the goals here and focus more on a passive recreation, ecology, and nature. And then another question is how we intend to reach out to the partners such as YMCA, St. Elizabeth, and other corporate partners.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Gary,
mine. Oh, go ahead.
No, this is Scott Gunning. Hey, Gary, I will comment quickly on the Meadow Glen. We can address it in an email offline too, but the county is starting to look at putting together some cost estimates for the sidewalks. That is a high priority to connect that subdivision, so definitely something we're looking at.
Becky, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, thank you. I used to work at the YMCA prior to COVID, but the one at the RC Dur that's in Boone Woods. And I see a lot of things that maybe other people may not notice, such as because the YMCA does child watch or has child care, we see a lot of young families come in and utilize the child care or the child watch, and then they go out and use the park because they have that accessibility to those services.
Okay.
So there's some other underlying things that we may not even be thinking of that the YMCA could provide.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Anyone else? We're getting close to our time here.
Is there an opportunity for a dog park there? I know that space is used now for people walking dogs, or even a small agility course for dogs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have that on our list on under active passive recreation and dog park. We could add the agility comment to that. Okay.
And I have a grandson who was looking at ways that teenagers might use a park, and the idea of a music stage or a place to do outdoor drama came to his mind. Okay,
great.
One comment was artwork and sculptures.
Okay.
Another one.
Well, I will add, if anybody is, if you want more time to think about it, so we're going to have a poll, a survey open till the end of the month, and the link is on the county's website. So if there's anything else that you wanted to say, weren't sure, but want to make that point, please log on to the county website. There's the link. KentonCounty.org, 583 New Kenton County Park. So it's not called Fox Run anymore. That was the golf course. So it's until there's a name for the park, it's going to be called the New Kenton County Park. So look for that link on the county website, and we welcome any other comments that you might have. And I want to reiterate, first of all, I want to thank you for taking this hour on a beautiful evening. And I hope that you'll stay involved. If there's others that you want to have involved, hopefully this format is conducive for that, and you encourage them to log in to the next meeting, and hope that you will as well. So unless there's any other final comments, I think that's what we have for you this evening.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for the comments. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.